Ancient African punishments so merciless they'd leave wrongdoers begging for a quicker death. In this video, we expose 7 brutal methods. Some built to drive body temperatures past the breaking point, others meant to terrorize victims into shock long before death arrived. So stay with us as we count them down from least to most horrifying, but make no mistake, every one of them is pure nightmare fuel. Number 7. Crocodile Lake Ordeal. A remote riverbank in West or Central Africa where villagers gather under torchlight, their faces painted with ritual markings for protection. The condemned is bound to a rough wooden plank with braided vines, wrists and ankles immobilized, so escape is impossible. Elders chant invocations to river spirits believed to judge the soul, while the prisoner is pushed into dark waters that shimmer with the eerie reflection of moonlight. Crocodiles slide silently beneath the surface, their eyes glowing like green embers. Hours may pass as the current carries the raft farther from shore, the victim trembling at every splash, heart pounding in dread. Sometimes the reptiles strike swiftly, but more often death comes slowly from hypothermia, thirst, or sheer exhaustion, while the watching crowd interprets every ripple as a sign from the spirits that justice is unfolding. Number 6. Elephant crushing. In certain Sahelian and East African kingdoms, elephants symbolized royal might and divine authority, and some were specially trained for execution rituals from a young age. Drummers announced the spectacle with thunderous rhythms as the condemned was forced to lie in the dust of a public square packed with spectators. A war elephant, its tusks painted with bright dyes and its ears draped in ceremonial cloth, advanced under the firm command of a chief who carried a carved staff of office. The animal might first pin a limb or chest, holding its massive weight just enough to break bones and force screams without ending life immediately. The commander often circled the scene, making pronouncements to the crowd about loyalty and fear before signaling the final crushing only after long minutes of terror and pain, a living testament to the ruler's absolute power. Make sure to subscribe as we keep on unfolding the mysteries of the olden days in ways that are interesting and entertaining. Let's carry on. Number 5. Red-hot sand burial. In arid regions of the Sahara and the Horn of Africa, a pit was dug in open desert and left to bake under a brutal sun until the sand itself seemed to shimmer with heat. The victim, often accused of grave offences like betrayal or sacrilege, was buried to the waist with arms pinned and mouth parched from forced fasting. Attendants shoveled sun-heated sand around the body while chanting curses and prayers, occasionally pouring additional hot sand to intensify the suffering. The scorching surface burned flesh, while relentless dehydration drew every drop of moisture from the body. Witnesses reported some captives surviving an entire day as their core body temperature climbed dangerously high, cooking them from within until vital organs began to fail. Even those who endured the initial ordeal often died days or even weeks later from the internal damage caused by this relentless heat, their bodies unable to recover from the systemic shock. Number 4. Ant-hill torture. This ordeal appeared in several Central and West African traditions and was often reserved for those accused of witchcraft or grave theft. The condemned was tied beside a giant anthill populated by aggressive driver or soldier ants, with wrists lashed to stakes so they could not brush the insects away. Executioners sometimes smeared honey or palm oil on the victim's skin to lure the insects faster, while onlookers sang or beat drums to drown out the screams. As the tropical heat climbed, waves of ants swarmed, biting and injecting acid that caused excruciating pain, swelling, and eventual fever. Hours of agony followed while villagers looked on, some believing the ants purified evil spirits from the body or carried away the person's sins. If the victim avoided lethal infection, they could linger well into the next day, covered in welts and wounds that left permanent scars. Number 3. Boiling oil immersion. A massive iron cauldron, often filled with palm oil or water mixed with herbs, was heated over a roaring fire for hours until the surface roiled and the air shimmered with heat. The prisoner, bound with ropes, was lowered slowly by poles while the crowd chanted incantations meant to bind the soul. First the feet and ankles submerged, skin blistering instantly, while the upper body remained agonizingly aware. The smell of burning flesh mixed with the chants of onlookers and the crackle of the flames, creating a sensory nightmare. Historical accounts from traders describe victims enduring several minutes of unbearable pain before merciful unconsciousness set in, while the gathered community took the ordeal as a warning that betrayal would be met with fire. Number 2. Hyena Entrail Ordeal. Legends from the Horn of Africa tell of rebels or traitors deliberately wounded in the abdomen and left in shallow pits at the edge of hyena territory. Before being abandoned, victims were sometimes ritually cursed by elders or smeared with animal fat to heighten the scent of blood. With the night wind carrying the smell of flesh, hyenas crept closer, their eyes catching torchlight as they circled and yipped. Witnesses claimed the animals began feeding while victims remained alive, drawing out the terror through the long night as the cries echoed across the plains. Though primarily preserved in oral tradition, these stories highlight how fear of scavengers and the supernatural dread of being consumed by them were weaponized as punishment and spectacle. Number 1. Skinning alive. Perhaps the most horrific of all, partial flaying was sometimes reserved for traitors, sacrilegious offenders, or captured enemy leaders. Executioners used razor-sharp blades to peel away strips of skin in carefully chosen sections, starting with the arms or back to prolong agony, while avoiding major arteries to keep the victim conscious. The process could last for hours as the crowd watched in stunned silence, or participated with ritual chants intended to curse the victim's spirit. In some regions, the removed skin was later dried and displayed on city gates or palace walls as a grim warning, turning the victim's body into a permanent symbol of state power and retribution that haunted the community for years.